Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode number 11, or as Jacob referred to it as the Edgar episode of the Kingsmen Sports Podcast. I am Matthew King, Jacob Sullivan, hanging out the entire episode this week. Basketball season in the rearview mirror. Luke kind of going to take a little bit of a break, I guess. He can just sit back and relax, but we continue to dive right into baseball. And Jacob, it was a interesting week for specifically Mariners fans. This is one of the first times we've actually been able to talk about the Mariners, really dive deep into the Mariners on the main show.
Right.
But when there's a fight like the one we saw this weekend, I think that's where we got to go. So there's just so many layers to get into the brawl between the Mariners and the Angels. I'm sure you all know we are going to talk about that for a majority of the next 15, 20 minutes ish, I'm guessing. But
I have a lot to say,
a lot to dissect. I was calling All-State Baseball when it was happening, so I had to go back and watch it with the sound on. I saw it live, but I didn't have sound on, so I had to go back and watch it. And I watched both the Mariners and the Angels broadcast of it. I, of course, watched John Boy's broadcast or breakdown of it as well. Right. So fascinating, so many layers to get into. But Jacob, I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to you to kind of figure out where we're going to start with this whole thing.
All right. So first and foremost, you have to look at the night before. And so Mike Trout did not like being pitched in on. That first pitch that was semi, but not really near his chin, zero issue. The next pitch got a little too high and inside. Zero intention. I mean, it was a close game in the ninth inning. Come on, that is not on purpose. Eric did not have his best stuff that game, and that's just a pitch that got away from him. And he said, hey, if I'm going to miss to Trout, I'm glad I missed high and in, so he couldn't punish me for it. And I honestly agree with him. I mean, obviously, you don't want to accidentally peg somebody in the head either, but I've seen balls at Trout's ankle go 450 feet over the fence. I mean, if you are going to miss against him, that's where you want to miss at. Now, he wasn't saying, well, if I can't pitch to you, I'll pitch at you. That's just ridiculous. And so for Trout to get all up in arms and say, well, you can't throw inside if you're going to lose control, that's a little bit childish, especially given the fact that Upton just got hit in the head a week ago, and he got a bunch of texts from his previous teammates saying that wasn't intentional. It just got away from the pitcher. We're sorry, man. And so it's kind of a double standard. And then the Mariners end up winning the game. It's 5 in a row. They're celebrating the same way they always do, even if it's their first win in 5 games. And the Angels are just glaring at them the entire time. And they chirp at them a little bit. And Nevin starts saying, we won't forget this. That's a problem. We're talking a few weeks ago about, is Phil Nevin ready to be a head coach? The answer is now clearly 100% no. He was a subpar corner infielder / catcher / outfielder for 12 years. He's bounced around as a minor league manager and a base coach since. He obviously does not have the leadership capabilities required to be a manager, because this isn't the 1980s. You shut that crap down. You collect your team. You prepare for the game tomorrow. You do not beat the war drums and incite violence, and you don't bring in an opener to hit a guy. Here's where the Angels stench really just rotten. It shows itself clear as day. A last-minute personnel change to bring in a relief kid for his first ever start as an opener, and everyone in the stadium knew that they were up to no good. And if there was any competency at all, the umpires would have issued a pre-game warning to both teams saying, we're not having this, behave. They didn't, and right away, Wentz throws at Julio's head. Then both teams get warned. But it doesn't matter. Even in the archaic baseball retaliation rules, that should end it. You took your shot, you missed. Now let's go and let's be adults and play the game. Nope. Next inning, first pitch, right at Winker. And what do the Trash Angels do about it? They start yelling at the guy who just got hit. I mean, just completely classless. Rendon, who's out for the season with a cast on his arm, is one of the first ones out of the dugout, starts running his mouth and actually throws a pretty pathetic swing at Winker to start everything off. Hey, he's not worried about getting tossed. He's already missing the entire season, right? So that sets everything up in motion for the biggest baseball fight I've seen in a long time. Guys were full on swinging at each other. JP was throwing haymakers to protect his boys from getting, on the ground. 55-year-old Scott is in the middle of the scrum. It's intense. It's crazy. And it lasts nearly 20 minutes. When it's all said and done, 100% advantage Angels. Mariners lose JP, Jesse, Scott, and for some very strange reason, Julio. Our manager and arguably the best 3 hitters remaining in our already kind of gutted lineup. The Angels lost Nevin, Wentz, who was a sacrificial lamb anyway. They didn't care. And a couple of relievers. Iglesias, I didn't really understand that toss either. I know, John Boy doesn't see all of the visuals, but it seemed like, according to the breakdown and the footage that I could see, he was trying to break it up with his own guys as well. So to summarize, the only significant Angels to be tossed were the interim manager, their unneeded closer, and their sunflower seeds.
And the bubble gum.
And the bubble gum, right? Their snacks sure took a hit. So, intense fight, kind of entertaining as long as no one gets hurt. You might say good for the sport, but awful for the players. There's no place in it for baseball anymore, and it needs to be shut down, and it wasn't. What do you think of the fight?
All right. So I want to start things off with the umpires. I get why there wasn't pregame warning, because as they didn't see what the Angels were doing and chirping after the game. Because as soon as the game was over, umpires are gone. They're getting out of there. So they didn't know unless they heard about it, which it could go 50-50 either way. So I get why there was no warning. At the same time, I think they should have probably, had some word with both coaches, because things were getting a little emotional already between the two teams. Going back to last week and the Justin Upton hit by pitch, 100% agree. That was not on purpose. Lorenzen came out and he was trashing the baseballs like everyone's done all season long. Don't think that was on purpose a single bit. The Mike Trout one, Eric Swanson, like you said, did not have his best stuff at all. That first pitch just missed a little bit. That second one missed a lot. I don't think that was on purpose either, for the reason being there was already a runner on base. The Mariners were up by 2. You put Trout on, Shohei Ohtani, who already homered in the game, is coming up representing the winning run, which I know they ended up intentionally walking. I've seen Angels fans put that out there. But, I mean, then you're having to make that decision, Trout or Ohtani. You're not giving Trout anything to hit anyway because of how he's hit against the Mariners. So might as well just put him on. He's likely going to reach anyway.
And just a side thought on that, when that pitch came in, there was no open base at first. It was because of that wild pitch that first opened up.
100%.
Yeah, so
then Ohtani comes up, the fly out, and like you said, the Mariners celebrate exactly like they do every single night that they get the win. It's JP Crawford having a good time. The outfielders dancing around. Right. That's that. Angels, they don't like it. And yeah, like you say, Nevin clearly says, we won't forget about this. That shows the next day something's going to happen. Everyone knew it. And then them announcing their starting pitcher, because they announced the pitcher Saturday night for the game on Sunday. They announced Suarez was going to be their guy. And then about an hour and a half before Sunday's game, they came out and said, we're going to have an opener. Right. Boom. Fireworks are bound to happen. So Julio comes up and they throw at Julio. And Julio handled that very well for just being a kid. He was very calm about it. Like you said, you took
Because he knew
your
what
shot
it was about.
and you missed. Exactly. Now, the thing is, when Jesse got hit, I don't think Jesse was worried about him getting hit. I think he was worried about Julio just got thrown at. He's the young stud. He's the guy, the face of the Mariners' future. He's going to be there forever. I think that is what Jesse had the problem with, because you can see him talking to coaches and saying he's just a kid. He had nothing to do with any of this, which also, I don't mean to get off track a little bit, made me think if Ty France is in the lineup, no doubt he's the one who gets thrown at. Because, I mean, first of all, it just happens to Ty France anyway.
Yeah.
But he's the Mariners' best hitter. He gets thrown at, and I think nothing really happens even if Winker does get hit again, because I think the pitcher gets ejected, everyone just goes on. But the fact that it was Julio, a 21-year-old young phenom, Jesse stood up for him because he knew Julio wasn't going to do anything. And then, Jesse starts chirping at the dugout because of Nevin and Rendon chirping at him. And then Jesse just sees red, goes right after him. The umpire tried to get in his way. It wasn't happening. They brawl. The Angels credit. I mean, I didn't expect Shohei Ohtani to ever get involved in the brawl because Shohei just seems to be a good human being.
Right.
Trout was pulling Upton out. Of course, they're good friends. I saw on John Boy's breakdown, Upton wasn't happy about it because he said, we're the ones who got hit. It was us who got hit.
Right. He's been on interviews saying, what are you guys doing? Like, double standard.
100%. And I'm not saying that I think the Angels planned for Rendon to be out there chirping. Rendon's a veteran. I think he was just voicing his opinion for his guys, which I understand. I don't think there's some, conspiracy to get the Mariners players ejected. But then, Jesse comes out, gets the left palm to the face, and then just all hell breaks loose. There's no other way to put it. J.P. Crawford comes in over the top, dropping bombs. And I never saw Julio do a thing. The question I have is, did they see Eugenio Suarez do stuff? Because he was definitely in there and just misinterpreted it as they thought that was Julio. I don't know how that exactly would happen, but it's the only way I can see any sort of punishment for Julio is just they misidentified the guy.
Right.
Now, Iglesias should not have been ejected either. 100% should not. The sunflower seeds and everything happened after he was ejected.
Right.
He was absolutely
because he
baffled.
was mad about being ejected. Yeah, I get it.
100%. And once he said, you could see him talking to Jesse Winker saying, sorry, I had to. And I get, once he's a rookie, they told him to go hit the guy. I mean, what are you supposed to do? I understand.
Right.
There was no doubt the Angels were coming in looking for trouble. That's what it really comes down to. They were frustrated. They just got beat twice in a row by these guys, and now these guys are dancing on the field. They were frustrated. There was no intent on anything prior to Sunday, though. No intent on anything before the game on Sunday. That's what I looked at. And then Julio, after the game, his interview, he said, I just wanted to go play some baseball. I just wanted to go have fun playing baseball. He didn't want any part of that either. The Angels drug him into that. And I really think you look at it, the Angels were the instigators, because you can't convince me that they threw at Trout on purpose. The Angels came out looking for trouble. And even when the Mariners bullpen was headed back to the bullpen, the Angels dugout still chirping at him, still jawing at him, still trying to keep it going. I watched the Angels broadcast. The Angels broadcasters were saying that the Mariners were trying to keep it going. It is mind-boggling how the Angels are trying to turn this around and make themselves still seem like the good guys. There's just no way about it. We're going to get into the suspensions here in just a minute. But if you're going to have a pitcher go out there and hit a guy on purpose, it's got to be a veteran, because then everyone's kind of going to expect it, and hit a veteran hitter. You don't throw out the head of a young stud phenom who's already been hurting your team that entire series. You just don't do it. The Angels, I lost a lot of respect for them. I've lost a lot of respect for Mike Trout that he can still earn back if he just comes out and says, hey, our guys shouldn't be throwing inside either then if they can't control it, because they missed up and in. He can't be a hypocrite. He's got to come out and say, no, he stands by what he said, even if it's going against his own team.
Now, to Mike Trout's credit, I did appreciate him going into the scrum, getting Upton out, and just saying, that is the enemy at that point for a lot of people seeing red.
Former teammates, they are friends still. So
exactly.
I mean, yeah.
So he sought him out, got another guy out of that scuffle, and said, please don't get hurt. That I appreciate. But yeah, he was kind of instigating it with those comments just as much as some of the other guys who were actually throwing the punches. Now, I used to agree a lot with you about if it's a veteran guy against a veteran guy, they know the rules. There's just no place in that for baseball anymore.
Now, I do want to mention, I don't think it's okay for a veteran on veteran head. Hit him in the ribs or hit him in the butt or something. I didn't mean throw at their head. That's not what I meant when I said that.
Which is good. Because, I mean, the helmets help, but, I mean, Mariner fans, I mean, Kyle Lewis is the most recent to be affected by a ball to the head. I mean, you've got Mitch Haniger, you've got so many guys that it's like, okay, we need the mouthpieces, we need that protect those guys. I don't know if it's the older I get or the more that I see it happening with just such evilness intent. I hate it. I used to be one of those guys that it was like, oh yeah, you put one of ours in the hospital, yours is going to the morgue, that kind of thing. But just drop it anymore. It's not fun for the players. It's not fun for the young guys. Sure, want to play. They're the future of the club, but the veterans want to play too. A lot of them, they're looking for the record books at that part in their career, and they want to top off the end of their career with nothing but play time for as long as they can. And there's just so many players getting injured not due to stupidity that it's like, cut the crap out. I have heard a lot of people saying, well, Jesse should have just walked to first. And I think part of it was that, why are you throwing at our young guy? But I think a part of it was he was waiting to see that umpire's arm go up and say, you're gone. And he was there for a good few seconds and it wasn't happening. And then the dugout starts yelling at him to, take his base or stop complaining, whatever they were yelling at him. And then, like you said, that just set the whole thing in motion. But I feel like if there was an immediate, you're gone, we're not handling that, it was a lot more likely that he would have just trotted to first and said, yeah, that's right, you're gone. Cut the crap.
I do think a reason that we didn't see the umpire just come out is we're used to seeing the big show of ejections, burying home plate, the umpire's throwing them way at it. That's not how it's done anymore. I think they try and make it more low key, more, just quietly, like, you're gone. That's how
after
they're trying
warnings, to do. First pitch of the inning.
Still, it's how they're trying to do things. They're trying to clean up the umpires' looks, because the umpires just get shredded no matter what they do. It's an impossible job to win. I'll put that out there. But
I get that.
Most of the time you see in that situation, umpires get together, the whole crew, and then they're all like, yeah, he's got to be ejected. They eject. Everyone goes on. We saw it in Houston. That's exactly what the umpires did. Of course, it wasn't quite the same, I don't believe, but let's go ahead and dive into the suspensions real quick, and we'll kind of build off of that. Do you have them handy with you?
I don't have them listed out. I've got the Spark Notes, but if you want to pull it up real quick, we can just list word for word.
We know that Phil Nevin is suspended 10 games. He got the biggest suspension out of anybody involved in the incident. We also have Jesse Winker suspended 7. He was the player and the Mariner that got suspended the longest. Anthony Rendon, 5 games. I did see he's also, I believe, not allowed on the bench for 7, and then will serve 5 games next season when he's back. and healthy. Angels pitching coach gets 5 games. JP Crawford gets 5 games. Andrew Wantz, the pitcher, got 3 games. Ryan Tepera, another Angels reliever, got 3 games. He was definitely involved. Raisel Iglesias got 2 games. Julio Rodriguez got 2 games. The Angels bench coach got 2 games. An Angels interpreter got 2 games. And the Angels catching coach got a game. So all sorts of suspensions being thrown out. The Iglesias one, I think, stemmed from how he handled after the ejection, the throwing of the gum and the sunflower seeds.
Maybe yes, maybe no. To me, part of that list, it just seems like they read who got ejected, read who kind of was involved to any degree, and then said, yeah, this sounds good. Yeah, this sounds good. Because both him and Julio were the surprise ejections, and both of them got 2 games as well. So I don't know. Take that what you will. I'm sure that there's going to be some appeals, and we'll see what happens.
There are appeals already. Wentz is the only one who's not appealing, the pitcher, and I think he knew nothing was going to change on his. I'm stunned he only got 3 games. As a pitcher, suspensions need to be longer, especially when you don't pitch every day. For a starting pitcher especially, need to be longer. You need to miss some time.
Well, he's not rotation. A starter. He's an
opener.
Opener.
He's an opener.
First start ever. Yeah.
But
I feel like the reason his was only I feel like the reason that his was only 3 is because after he threw, he wasn't involved in the fight. And I think the MLB was like, okay, you were throwing punches, you get more. You were backing off and helping your team kind of settle down. And it's true. After he pegged Winker, the only thing we saw of him was apologizing and trying to calm the scuffle down. So I feel like that's why he only got 3. You're right. I don't think it's enough, but it's at least mildly understandable. What I'm most disappointed in is Phil Nevin. I know that we feel differently about this topic, but I don't think he should be in the game of baseball. What he did was premeditated and malicious. If you sub another pitcher into your lineup with the sole intent of attempting injury to other players, you don't belong anywhere near the MLB. If you, like you mentioned, Wentz was apologizing to Winker saying, I'm sorry, I had to hit you. He was clearly instructed to inflict pain on the opposing ball players. That's despicable. Absolutely despicable. The MLB is allowing this crap to continue by barely punishing those who have malice, by just lumping them together with those who are defending their teammates from being clobbered on. It's the age-old tale of a bully picking a fight and then the kid getting in trouble for defending himself and fighting back. Only this time there's cameras and witnesses and clear intentions that are all known to the world. It's a pathetic slap on the wrist, and they're inviting this crap to continue. It's weak league management per usual. It's very disappointing. 10 games for a manager to let the other team know exactly what he's going to do, edit his lineup so that it affects him least when he does it, and then following through on hurting other players intentionally is just no. It should not be allowed, period. I don't want to see him in the game of baseball anymore.
And here's why the MLB will never take that stance. You and I kind of talked about it a little bit off camera. What happened on Sunday is phenomenal for ratings. There's no arguing that. A lot of people tuned into that. A lot of people clicked on that clip on social media. Everyone was watching it. Everyone was talking about it. That's while they might say they don't necessarily want guys fighting, if it happens occasionally, they're not going to try and completely wash it away from baseball. It's phenomenal for ratings. Like you said, this is the biggest fight since, for me, it was the World Baseball Classic back in, I believe, 2012 between Mexico and Canada. If you haven't watched that one, go take a peek at that one. That one's wild. It is crazy. But this is the biggest fight since then that I've seen. But the thing about Nevin is, to ban an interim manager he's not going to stick around. He's not going to keep the job. There's no shot. The Angels haven't turned things around enough. He's not keeping the job. He'll be gone or back to an assistant coach next season. Also, I get this one. It seems pretty cut and dry, like 100%. This is their intent. But all of a sudden, if he goes, you're going to have those teams demanding other coaches go when they think there was intent. It just gets things so foggy. That's why I don't think you'll ever see it. I do agree it should be more than 10 games. Should be more than 10 games, probably. But it's the front offices of all these major sports organizations. They care about the money coming in. As long as the product isn't horrendous, whatever draws them views, whatever puts money in their pocket, they're going to be okay with. For the most part, they might give you the little slap on the wrist, but I mean, you can look at football right now with the whole. We won't even dive into the Deshaun Watson situation right now, but
touchy subject.
There's issues in hockey. There's issues in FIFA. Major issues in FIFA. As long as the product's good, as long as they're still getting money, they're not going to change too much. It's really disappointing. But at the same time, it's just the way that it is. It's the way it's probably always going to be. But the Angels, I think I lost a lot of respect for them. You said you gave Trout some credit. I still don't give Trout any credit until I hear him come out and speak out against his pitcher, because this all stemmed from Mike Trout not even being hit.
Right.
And that started all of this.
Right. Yep. I hear Winker got a pizza out of it. I don't know if you followed that story. It turned into a big old fundraising donation, and now I think you can get a Mariners pizza pin with a Jesse Winker jersey coming up soon. So I mean, it was people are night, making light of it. Yeah, and that DoorDasher who got Jesse Winker the pizza got a ton of donations from Venmo and even donated a good chunk of that to charity himself. So credit to him, credit to the fan who was able, I believe her name was Sophia. My apologies, but she kind of took over and made that a really memorable experience. And Jesse Winker got an absolute thunderous standing ovation last night. I give him a lot of credit for sticking up for the 21-year-old who literally didn't do anything wrong. It's just unbelievable. And then apologizing for your own faults. You know, he did go back after the game and say, yeah, probably shouldn't have flipped off them women and kids. He was saying I was seeing red and this is partly my bad. Absolutely. I haven't heard any Angels say, oh yeah, we took that too far.
Credit to him for getting Noah Syndergaard out of there, because that's a scary man you don't want to be fighting. And credit Taylor Trammell. He's got a job as a bouncer. If he ever decides to step away from baseball, my goodness. He was
JP might be a featherweight MMA fighter. I don't know.
JP saying he was just showing he's got his boys back. As
Mariners
fans, I learned a lot about our team, and I learned a lot about the Angels. One of those is much better than the other. Let's just put it that way.
I agree.
So, I don't think, to wrap this all up, I don't think this is over, unfortunately. I think there will be someone for the Angels wearing a ball. I hope it's not to the head. I hope it's just a shot to the ribs to Mike Trout, and everyone goes on with their business. Put this behind us.
I feel like if that's the case, there's no other option for MLB than to step up the penalties. If you don't, you have to understand you're going to be the laughing. Everyone knows what's going on and how to prevent it. And if you don't, it's on you, not the players anymore.
Rob Manfred's already the laughing stock of any commissioner.
True.
So we'll see. We'll see how it all comes about. These teams get a little break from each other, and then we'll be back to playing each other here in about a month or so. And we'll find out what's going on. But let's go ahead and move on. And well, now that we have that all cleared off, the emotional part of this episode, let's hop into a quick segment about the biggest surprises so far of the MLB season. Jacob and I each came up with one team and one player to look at as the surprise. So we're going to start with our most surprising team. I looked at like the Padres, who have gone through a lot of injuries and have just continued to fight. I ended
Tampa
up going
for the same reason.
Tampa, yeah, 100%. Yeah. I ended up going with the Cleveland Guardians, though. When you look at the Guardians, 37-33 record as of time of recording, they did drop a couple games behind Minnesota for first place. They were in first place for a day or so. But, I mean, no one really expected much from Cleveland this year, especially, I mean, when you look back at Jose Ramirez signing that extension, people were kind of like, really? He wants to stay in Cleveland where it doesn't look like they have much of a plan for, the future. And that's where he's going to want to go. It looks like they had a plan because they look pretty darn good this year. And it all starts with that rotation. Just so many great pitchers. You got Savali, you got Bieber, of course, a former Cy Young winner. You got Plesac, Tristan McKenzie looks like he's figured things out as well. They just have so many guys who have really kind of turned the corner and look like legitimate just studs in this league. Stephen Kwan, he was the talk of April. I mean, he's still playing pretty solid baseball, but this rotation last year was very good as well. They just couldn't stay healthy. Everyone was hurt for the Guardians last season. They were missing a lot of arms, but it seems like they have finally put things together, and they just look like a team that's gelling, a team that believes in themselves, that are playing for one another, and they're quietly having a phenomenal season in a division that everyone thought they'd be best case scenario, probably the second, third best, maybe probably third. And the White Sox were just going to run away with it. But man, they are playing just such good baseball, and they continue to be right in the thick of things, not only in the division, but they're still in the wild card race. You cannot overlook this squad with that high level of pitching that they have up and down their rotation.
Absolutely. With my surprise team, I went with a team that everyone thought would be decent, probably land a wild card spot, and they're just blowing everybody out of the water, and that's the New York Yankees. They didn't really have that big of an off season. They brought Josh Donaldson and they re-signed Rizzo, which was decent moves, but their fans were just hollering about such a ho-hum off season. It felt doomed to repeat the standard 90 win-ish season, hobble into a lucky wild card, and not take it very far. That entire division kind of flipped on what everyone was kind of expecting. I had to look back at our predictions. I was looking at my notes, and for the AL East, you said the Jays, the Yankees, Boston, Tampa, and Baltimore. And I said Jays, Tampa, Yankees, Boston, Baltimore. Now the Yankees are looking like they might win more games than anyone ever has before. Their entire team, besides Joey Gallo, side note, Aaron Judge's slugging percentage is higher than Joey Gallo's OBS. Just throwing that out there. But everyone else has been performing exactly as they'd hoped. Their bats have just been terrifying. Their pitching has been incredible. They're handling injuries. I mean, they lost Chapman, and it didn't hardly even slow them down. And so the fact that everything just seems to be so dominantly on fire, that was the surprise of 2022 for me so far. It just seems like every year they're like, okay, we have a good team, we have the talent, and they just don't get where they needed to be with it. And it seems like all of that bad luck, they're getting their karma dividends, and they're just nothing but good is happening for them this year.
Yeah, I don't feel bad when bad things happen to the Yankees with the success that they've had in their franchise's history. But yeah, and that's with Garrett Cole playing pretty inconsistent. He hasn't been he's turned things around, but I mean, to start the year, he was in a bad place for the Yankees. So yeah, when we look at biggest surprises, some of you might be thinking, well, the Yankees are supposed to make the playoffs, and I can't argue with Jacob's reasoning at all, especially with who I went as my surprise player. I went Justin Verlander. I mean,
yeah,
he pitched one game in 2020. He pitched the opener. Kyle Lewis took him deep, of course, because that's what Kyle Lewis does. He owns Justin Verlander, the only batter who might have that claim. Missed the rest of that year, of course, it was a shortened year, missed all of last year, and has come back, and he looks just unbelievable at 39 years old. He's got a 2.22 ERA, 9-3 record, and 89 innings, 84 strikeouts, a whip under 1. He has just been the Justin Verlander we've come accustomed to knowing. He's the guy we expect when we see Justin Verlander take the hill. I personally am not a Justin Verlander fan, but man, you got to give the guy his respect, because to come back from injury like that took so long to recover from, and he's getting up there in age, and to just look like he hasn't missed a beat. It is really unbelievable to watch. So I got to give him props. Justin Verlander having a heck of a season, could win another Cy Young.
Yeah, we've talked about him plenty. And honestly, I remember talking at the beginning of the year about Houston and how he said, their rotation isn't as scary as it has been in years past. He took offense to that, apparently, because he just keeps going and going. Like you said, after substantial injury, after he should be statistically on his declining years of his career. So I
do want to add in his worst outing of the year was against the Mariners. So I want to put that out there as well.
Absolutely.
Everything else, he's been dominant.
With Kyle Lewis as a contributing factor to that.
Exactly.
In the 3 days that we got him for. So my surprise player is actually an ex-Mariner, Tyler Anderson. This one hurt a little bit, didn't it? Because last year, between both the Pirates and the Mariners, he pitched 167 innings to the tune of a 7-11 record, a 4.53 ERA, 1.25 WHIP, 134 Ks, gave up 34 walks and 27 home runs. Scale of 1 to 10, probably not a starter you'd go out and just pine after.
Average pitcher.
Yeah. Dodgers threw $8 million at him, and he's been the best budget pitcher pickup I have ever seen. He's 8-1 with a 3.23 ERA, 1.04 WHIP, already has 67 strikeouts with only 13 walks and 8 home runs. His one loss came in Coors Field, which is normal for pitchers to struggle a little bit, especially against his prior team. They took him yard a couple times, and his white hot offense teammates got shut out. You can't win games with your offense getting shut out, especially in Coors. He was 2 outs away from a no-hitter earlier this year. It's been an incredible season for him, and a pitcher that everyone had a chance at having this year, let's be honest. And Dodgers were like, yeah, sure, we'll give you a shot. And they're thankful that they did.
And I hate that we have to hear from a couple of specific Dodgers fans about how successful Mariners are that go from Seattle to LA. And I don't know if you just saw the latest Dodger call up, Stephen Romero. So we'll see if that ends up working out like the rest have. But yeah, he's had an unbelievable season. I did look at Tony Gonsolin for the Dodgers as well, but I mean, he's been just so good over the past few years. I don't know if it necessarily goes about as being a surprise with how he's done, but man, he might be the best pitcher in baseball. That Dodgers team still, I think, laying under the radar. Everyone's talking about the Yankees and the Mets. Don't sleep on the Dodgers yet. And yeah, Tyler Anderson's been
sleeping on the Dodgers.
Phenomenal. People are sleeping on the Dodgers, right? That's going to do it for our biggest surprises so far of the 2022 season. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to go into another edition of Mount Rushmore. This week, we're heading up to Canada. We're going to talk about the Toronto Blue Jays, eh? That is all coming up next here on the Kingsmen Sports Podcast. Welcome back to the Kingsmen Sports Podcast. Let's go ahead and hop right into our next segment. We're going to do another edition of Mount Rushmore this week, the Toronto Blue Jays. And yes, I did get an A in before we went to commercial. Yes, I did enjoy every second of it. So let's just
we
hop
could tell
right
you
into
smiled
this. The Toronto Blue Jays was a little bit difficult, honestly. There were a couple that were no doubters. And then we got into it, and it was like, oh, man, there's a few guys that can fill these last two spots. They got a lot of successful players really in their history, but we're going to start off with
let's start out with our honorable mentions this time, if you're okay with it.
Oh, okay. Hey, you're the co-captain of the ship.
Get them out of the way. So
all right, well, mine are Tony Fernandez, Roberto Alomar, and Joe Carter.
Okay, I like those. I also have Tony Fernandez. 4 separate stints with Toronto, accumulated handful of the team franchise records, hits, singles, you name it. So yeah, right there with you on that. I also have Roberto Alomar. He is the only Blue Jay that sits in Cooperstown right now. He only played 5 seasons with the Jays. Also played 3 with the Padres, 3 with the Orioles, 3 with the Indians. He was a Gold Glove All-Star in all 5 of his Toronto seasons, Silver Slugger in 1, MVP candidate handful of times. But just looking at his Blue Jays career, it's not a Hall of Fame career. It's his 12 straight All-Star seasons that made him shine. And then you add the whole getting banned from baseball into the mix.
That'll do it.
He's not even in Blue Jays Hall of Fame anymore. I mean, just completely stripped of his career. So, yeah, I'm with you there as well. My third honorable mention is actually John Olerud. A lot of love for Olerud in these parts. Most elite, unsung first baseman of the 90s and early 2000s. I mean, just an incredible player. You could always tell he was running out onto the field. He had his batting helmet when he was playing first base, and just an incredible under the radar guy.
Former Coug, by the way. I want to put that out there too. Pitched for Washington State. So, I mean, he's done it all. So,
and phenomenal. Made the all-century team.
100%. Yeah. He's historic career in Pullman at Wazoo. I like you mentioned about Tony Fernandez and Roberto Alomar. 100% echo everything you said there. Joe Carter, I have on my honorable mention. There's really 2 moments in Toronto Blue Jays history that you think of when you think of the Blue Jays. He's got one of them, that home run in the World Series, begging the ball to stay fair. Just iconic. Just have him missing out because, like I said, there's so much talent in this franchise's history. So let's jump into it. Let's start with number 1, the late Roy Halladay. A guy who we kind of talked about how we were going to do this. We were going to have people be able to make 2 different Mount Rushmores on 2 different teams. He might be one of them that has that argument. I mean, a 148 and 76 record, 3.43 career ERA with the Blue Jays. He did have 1,495 strikeouts, second place in pretty much every pitching category for the Blue Jays. 6-time All-Star with Toronto, a Cy Young winner with the Blue Jays. Led the MLB in wins in 2003 when he won that Cy Young, had his number retired. Obviously, he is in the Hall of Fame. A lot of people thought he should go in as a Blue Jay because of what he actually said after he retired. He said he wanted to go into Cooperstown as a Blue Jay. His family decided they just wanted him to be remembered as a Hall of Fame baseball player, which I can 100% respect because he was phenomenal in Toronto and Philadelphia. Just unbelievable career. And man, it was tragic to hear the news of his passing a handful of years ago. And I think a lot of people say that might have sped up his Hall of Fame process. That's not true. Roy Halladay was going to be a Hall of Famer without a shadow of a doubt. Unbelievable career. Just a special player. And man, he did it pretty quietly too. Never heard too much controversy about him.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned, I was expecting him to be a Blue Jay in the Hall, and the fact that his family said, both teams meant so much, we're just going to have that logoless cap on there. But it was true. A lot of his memorable moments came as a Philly, but 12 years as a Blue Jay, like you said, 3.43 ERA. His strikeouts were impressive. Also, over 2,000 innings pitched, 49 complete games as a Blue Jay. He was their most dominant pitcher in clubhouse history. As far as just, you did not want to face this guy. Yeah, one of his 2 Cy Youngs came as a J. Could not make this list without him.
Unbelievable career for Doc Halladay. Special player. Let's hop into, I think, the first Blue Jay that came into my mind when I thought of historic Toronto Blue Jays, Carlos Delgado.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable career. Was solid after he left Toronto, but Toronto's where he made his name. He was one of the most feared hitters. Run through the numbers: 282, 392, 556 slash line, 336 home runs, 1,058 RBIs, over 1,400 hits. He was first in runs, RBIs, and home runs in franchise history. 2-time All-Star with the Blue Jays, 3-time Silver Slugger, led all of baseball in RBIs in 2003 with 145, had an iconic game where he hit 4 home runs in the game, won the World Series his rookie year. That was something I didn't know he was a part of that team when I was digging into this. But what really set him apart, besides being a member of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, he won the Roberto Clemente Award. Now, that is the equivalent in baseball of the Walter Payton Man of the Year for football. It's for humanitarian work, and he did a lot of it. He was it meant the world to him to give back to everyone who had done so much for him, to those communities where he grew up, to the underserved communities back in his home. He was just an all-around good person. And really, I remember watching him hit just absolute tanks against the Seattle Mariners. He was unbelievable. One of the most feared hitters of his time, Carlos Delgado. I mean, there's no list of all-time Toronto Blue Jays without him on it.
Absolutely. 100%. Growing up, he was the face of the Blue Jays for me. That power hitter Delgado, 12 years. You said all the stats. One thing I'd like to mention, in 2003, when he was leading the league, he got absolutely robbed out of an MVP by the cheater who shall not be named. But yeah, just owns almost the lion's share, at least, of the clubhouse offensive records. Wins above replacement, slugging, runs, home runs. Just a prolific hitter. And yeah, he was the Blue Jays when we were growing up.
Unbelievable career, Carlos Delgado. Let's hop into number 3, a guy that I don't know how many people have necessarily heard of that are just, kind of casual fans, are starting to come into loving baseball in the last 20 years or so. Dave Stieb of the Toronto Blue Jays, one of the most underrated ace pitchers of all time. 175 career wins with the Blue Jays, a 3.42 ERA in his career, over 1,600 strikeouts, 103 complete games, which is unbelievable in baseball today. No one ever will get to that many probably again. 7-time All-Star, franchise leader in innings pitched, wins, strikeouts, shutouts, played 15 seasons with the Toronto Blue Jays. Only 6 seasons did he have fewer than 200 innings pitched. And 3 of those, he was injured. That's why he missed so many of them. He had injury issues. He threw a no-hitter, won a World Series, member of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. Unbelievable career for a guy who really should be talked about more when you look at his numbers. I mean, that was back in the day when guys were workhorses. They went out there and they just threw baseballs until the ball game was over. He had an unbelievable career. I again, don't think we'll see guys get to that many complete games again because the game's just changed so much. But Dave Stieb, wow, eye-opening when you look at the numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I absolutely loved, he played 14 seasons with the Jays, then played 4 games with the White Sox, retired, and then came back to Toronto 5 years later to pitch another 50 innings. He and Doc together hold pretty much every single clubhouse record that there is. You mentioned his stats, phenomenal. He did have a few Cy Young discussion seasons as well. He has the club's only no-hitter ever recorded. And here's where things get really interesting. He had back-to-back no-hitters broken up with 2 outs and 2 strikes in the 9th inning. 2 starts in a row, no-hitters into 9 2/3 of the game.
8 2/3.
Sorry, 8 2/3 into the game. I almost said 9 3/4. So,
You get what you get.
And he had them broken up. He had a third 2 out in the 9th no-hitter broken up later in his career as well. So you put that together, he was 3 cumulative outs away from having 4 no-hitters in his career, and he has to settle with just finishing 1. Still, fantastic pitcher, absolutely defined the team in the 80s, had the second most wins in all of the 80s. You're right. Take a second look at him. He had what would be a Hall of Fame career back in the day.
1000%. Let's get into number 4, and this is where we're going to veer off, walk away from each other.
We can't agree with each other all the time.
Exactly.
That's boring.
We share a brain almost most of the time. I went with Jose Bautista, another guy who I got to watch growing up, more so in my middle school and high school years. When you look at the number, I mean, a 253 career batting average with the Blue Jays, you're like, that's not great. He hit 288 home runs, though, 766 RBIs, over 1,000 hits, 803 walks. Just was an absolute one of the most feared hitters in all of baseball, feared by everyone except for Rougned Odor, I guess you could say. But in franchise history, second in home runs, third in RBIs, made 6 straight All-Star games with the Blue Jays, a 3-time Silver Slugger, led the entire league in home runs twice in back-to-back years in 2010 and 2011. When they brought him in, he was 28 years old. It looked like he wasn't going to be, the super prospect everyone was hoping for. They brought him in because Scott Rowland got hurt. They were looking for him to just play third base until Scott Rowland got healthy, which he did. Didn't play super great. Rowland came back, took the job back. But then in 2010, he got his opportunity at 29 years old, where he just went off, of course, led all of baseball in home runs that year. I mentioned that. But it comes down to maybe the most iconic moment in franchise history. We talked about Joe Carter. The only other one that has an argument is that postseason game against the Rangers, where things were just crazy. Remember that they tried to throw the ball back to the pitcher. It hit Shin-Soo Choo's bat and rolled away, runs scored. They had to break down everything, try and figure out. By the way, it was Rougned Odor who scored that run. So that led into that.
There you go.
The inning just took so long, and finally with the game tied, Jose Bautista hits just an absolute
shot
bomb way out of the Rogers Center. And of course, the iconic bat flip, the bat flip heard around the world. If you haven't seen that bat flip, you're living under a rock, or you just don't like sports.
Yeah.
Even people who don't like sports.
It's in all the memes, it's got the so-and-so pitching and then just nope.
Unbelievable. I got to give him credit, because when I think of the Blue Jays and what that franchise has been through, I think of Jose Bautista, that bat flip and everything he did for that team. I had to put him on there.
I definitely get it. I don't hate that pick at all. I'm going with George Bell. Now, the reason is because for nearly 30 years, George Bell was the only MVP winner to don a Blue Jays cap. Finally, Josh Donaldson broke that streak. But Bell spent 9 seasons with the Blue Jays, making plenty of waves. Again, this was in the 80s and early 90s. Racked up 3 Silver Sluggers, had 3 All-Star game visits, went along with his 1987 MVP award. 286 career batting average. Like you said, not huge when you think of the other caliber players that we put on these lists, but 1,294 hits with the Jays, 740 RBIs, 202 home runs. He is 100% in the Jays Hall of Fame. They call it the level of excellence. He's also in Canada's Baseball Hall of Fame. Actually, all 4 of my picks were both in the level of excellence and the Canadian Hall of Fame. So he's that MVP. You got to give credit where it's due, and he isn't talked about as much anymore. But especially for that ball club when it was young, he was their offense.
Yeah, I mean, you remember hearing the name Bell, and a lot of people, there was a joke in the 90s that if you heard the Bell come up, you were in trouble because it was either him or it was Albert Bell. You weren't going to have fun facing either one. So that was kind of a joke there in the 90s that you wanted to avoid hearing that Bell. He did have a phenomenal career. I can't disagree with that pick either. Again, there were so many guys that it really came down to for the 4th spot, but my 4 were Roy Halladay, Carlos Delgado, Dave, Steve, and Jose Bautista, and yours were the same. And then you also threw Bell in there for number 4 instead of Bautista. So really just it came down to being much more difficult than I anticipated. We're starting to get into those teams where it is starting to get harder and harder. Speaking of which, next week, the time has come. We are going to talk about the Seattle Mariners, Mount Rushmore. It's already tearing me apart because I've kind of laid the groundwork to mine. And that
we're going to have like 12 honorable mentions, guys. I'm sorry. You're just going to have to deal with it.
The 4th spot is going to break my heart. I'm choosing between children, it feels like at this point. It is going to be so difficult, but that'll be next week. We do want to remind you to hop on over to the Instagram. We'll have that tag below. And make sure you're voting on our Mount Rushmores. Vote who you agree with, which one you think got it right, which one got it wrong, or you can just comment and give us who you think your top 4 would be for each of these teams. We'd love to hear the feedback from you guys. So make sure you hop on over to Instagram, or you can just comment right here on Facebook or Twitter, wherever you're watching this. We'd be very interested to hear your Mount Rushmores for all these teams we're doing as well.
Especially as we get into the older teams and there's different generations there. I mean, there are people that I think of growing up watching these teams that I'm sure somebody who is getting into their 40s, 50s are like, no, you should have seen them at this time period. So yeah, let us know.
Well, that's going to do it for our Mount Rushmore segment. We are going to take one more quick break. When we come back, we'll have a short segment. We're going to draft some teams for July for the MLB. We're going to compete for another opportunity at a decree. We're going to see who gets to talk once again. I need some redemption after I just failed so miserably last time. So we will do our draft coming up next here on the Kingsmen Sports Podcast.
Since 1978, Rogers Key, Card, and Strophe has offered their clients excellent representation in all facets of legal areas as a general practice law firm. They're serving Thurston, Lewis, Mason, Pierce, and Grays Harbor counties. Our team of professionals' focus is on personal injury, family law, criminal defense and DUIs, estate planning, corporate, business, and real estate law. You can find them at budbaylaw.com for more information. Alderson's Awards West Printwares is your one stop to tell the world about your school, club, or business. Spread the word on jackets, shirts, hats, and more from Awards West Printwares in Centralia. Awards West Printwares offers fast service of quality products including screen printing and embroidery done on site. They offer a wide variety of advertising specialties at great prices and delivered right to your door. For a full catalog, go online to aldersons.net. For maximum impact, Aldersons Awards West Printwares is ready to serve you today.
Welcome back to the Kingsmen Sports Podcast. It's time to wrap this one up with our draft of July MLB teams. We did something similar to this a couple weeks ago where we drafted 3 teams. Whoever had the better record from their 3 teams won a decree. Jacob absolutely destroyed me in that one. We decided we're going to turn it into a monthly segment, and what we're going to do is a total of 5 teams. 4 are just going to be regular. You look at the schedule, you find out, hey, who's got the easy opponents, who's playing really good baseball. That's who I want. The fifth team, there will be a special rule each month. This month's is going to be they have to be under 500. Again, we are going to change things. We might have where we get to pick a team for one another. It's just going to be a different rule every month. It's just a way so we can have that competition to see who can earn another decree. We each have one under our belt now. Now we're going to start getting into the heavy stuff, the stuff we're very passionate about.
Right.
That the other person might disagree with. So now's when it's going to get very interesting. We got to decide draft order. Who picks first? Do you have a coin or?
No, last place gets to pick first. So I'll let you go.
All right. I guess I got to wear that one with Brett. He just absolutely destroyed me. So I can't even argue this time. So we do snake draft. I'll have first pick. Jake will get picks 2 and 3 and so on until we have 5 teams. So number 1, I've got my list of teams here, and there's some definite teams that are have a lot of road games. I noticed when I was looking through a lot of teams road heavy schedules. One that didn't seem to matter too much is going to be my first pick. I'm going to take the Houston Astros again. And that's because in the month of July, they have 2 games against a team that's over 500. Those 2 are against the Yankees. They play the Angels 6 times, the Royals 4, Oakland 9, and the Mariners 7. Just pretty light schedule for them, especially if they can start getting their guys, getting in the swing of things in the hot summer months where the ball's really going to be flying down there in Houston. I really, really think that they can go on a tear here in July.
Well, that shocks me. So I'm going to pick the team I thought that you were going to snag up and say the Yankees. There's no one hotter in baseball, and it doesn't even really matter who they're playing because they're crushing their rivals. They're beating on easier teams. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And then I think I'm going to go. We just did their Rushmore. I'm feeling good about the Blue Jays. Let's do the Jays.
Going with Toronto and the Yankees, staying in the AL East. That could
but
be
they don't
interesting.
play each other too much in July, so
that's fair. Well, then I'm going to go with a team that I thought for sure you'd scoop up. I'm going to go with the LA Dodgers, who only play 9 road games in the month of July. They have 3 with the Padres, 7 against the Rockies this month, 4 against the Cubs, 3 with the Cardinals, 2 with the Angels, that's 2 of their road games is against the Angels right down the road. So not too worried about those. 3 with Giants and 3 with the Nats, which can really have them finishing strong. There's some weak teams there on their schedule in the month of July. And with the next pick, I think I'm going to go with the other New York team, the Mets. Again, a pretty weak schedule. 3 with the Rangers, 3 with the Mets, 7 times they'll play the Miami Marlins, 3 against the Braves, 4 against the Cubs, 3 Padres, 2 Yankees. Again, those Yankee games are going to be absolutely insane. But I'll take the Dodgers and Mets. I'll hop on to the National League for my next 2.
Okay, we were kind of on the same page as far as that grouping goes. I think it worked out really well for me last time. I think I'm going to go with the champs and go the Braves.
Taking the Braves. I didn't even have them on my list, if I'm being honest with you.
Oh yes, they're heating up. It's time for them to show what's up. And like I said, it worked really well for me last time. And then I think I'm going to go with Tampa.
Okay. I respect that. I did have them on my list. So this time
Yeah.
you took a team away that I've been eyeballing, but Tampa, I'm worried about them. I am worried about them. They've been a little up and down.
They've got a pretty easy July schedule as far as these bigger teams goes.
See, the last team is going to be a little bit of an issue because my last team above 500, I should say, and then I'll pick the below 500. I'm bouncing back and forth, but I think I'm going to actually go with the Milwaukee Brewers for the sole fact that they don't play another one of my teams. I was debating between them and the Giants.
Oh, okay.
But I think I'm going to go with
the
the Brewers.
I did not have Giants on my list. I'll be honest.
Well, you should have had them. Trust me. They're going to have a good month, but not as good as the Brewers. So
okay. All right.
So there's my 4. All right. So now I have to pick my team below 500. And I only came up with 2 teams I'm really even debating on. And I think Oh man, this is a tough one. I think
I
I'm going to
know who
go.
you're picking. I know who you're picking.
I don't think you do. I'm going to go with the Baltimore Orioles.
Okay, I don't know who you're picking.
The schedule, it's not easy at all, but it's manageable. 3 with the Twins, 3 with the Rangers. 4 times they'll play the Angels. They'll play the Cubs twice. They play the Rays 7 times and the Yankees 3 times, but they also play the Reds 3 times. So I'm hoping that they can even out those tough games by taking, hopefully, that series with Minnesota. And I mean, they've taken a series from the Yankees this season, so maybe they can do it again.
All right. I like it. See, and now I'm curious. After I pick, I want to hear who your other 500 below 500 team was that you were contemplating, because I did not have Orioles on my list. I think I am going to go with the Miami Marlins. They have a couple.
Team?
Okay. They have a few games with the Mets that are scary. Other than that, pretty easy schedule. And honestly, probably one of the more talented 500 or below 500 clubs. I'm feeling good about that.
So a big reason I didn't go with Miami is because they have 7 games against the Mets, who I already took. And that kind of just counteracts. That's 7 days where it's just a waste, really. So
right.
That's why. And I think you thought I was going to go with the Mariners maybe again.
No, I honestly saw you going White Sox. I mean, they have some games with the Twins, but other than that, I mean, it's a pretty easy July. And pitching wise, at least best 500. I keep doing that. Best sub 500 team there is talent wise. So I thought that you were going to go with your World Series prediction.
I have trust issues with the White Sox right now. I need to see it. I don't want them. I don't want anything riding on them right now. I already have too much and it's not looking good. So there you go. My 5 teams, I've got the Houston Astros, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the New York Mets, the Milwaukee Brewers, and my under 500 are the Baltimore Orioles. You want to run through your 5 real quick?
Yep. I've got the Yankees, the Blue Jays, the Braves, the Rays, and the Marlins for my under 500.
So we will see August 1st. We will know for sure. And this is just their games from July 1st to July 31st. All those games that's all we're looking at. And of course, you got the All-Star game in the middle where nothing really happens. So we aren't counting that because I don't know how you'd even do it. But there you go. There's our draft there for the month of July. And that'll do it for this episode of the Kingsmen Sports Podcast. Once again, thank you so much for all the support. Again, I really, we'd love to hear you guys' opinions on these Mount Rushmore. So head on over to Instagram or drop a comment here on Facebook so we can see what you think of those, and also drop your prediction. Who you think's going to win this month when looking at these team schedules? Who you think's going to get the decree? I need redemption. I just got absolutely smoked. So hopefully it's at least closer this time. That's my hope. But hopefully I'll get that win and get to have a hot mic and have Jacob mute his here to start off August. That'd be a great way to start off your birthday month.
Yeah. No, I got some stuff to say. So your teams can disappoint again. I don't mind.
That'll do it for this week. We will be back next week for another pretty important episode of the Kingsmen Sports Podcast here on the Eli Sports Network.